Welcome to it. Weekend editions here with the Average Joe Sports.
Sands open.
Yeah.
Sands open.
And play the intro.
Well, I thought, we hit start and then
Dylan Raiola's leaving.
What? Oh my God. We couldn't wait for the intro, Elijah. Like breaking news.
A week later.
God.
Breaking news.
Dylan Raiola's about to go to his sixth school in 6 years.
Should I play the intro? I could get it started here.
All right,
Yeah, we're not rolling anyway. So what the
Yeah,
heck?
right. This is my breakfast ball. Take two. Go.
Live from Lincoln and broadcasting across the state of Nebraska, it's the Average Joe Sports Show. This is the place for Husker sports with the biggest names, the best interviews, and all the inside scoops.
I got a front row seat with a big tub of buttered popcorn and a greasy half-live chicken leg.
Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
And a couple other D-bags, apparently. I mean, geez, we don't even get...
We will work on that intro for 2026. The Pride of Fairbury's Bill Doleman, Mr. Mark Kraynak.
Make it an obvious audio edit, too. That would be best. Like, Elijah Herbel. And Bill Doleman. And, right. That's what we should do. And we also need a video intro. Okay. You know what I mean? Because you hear the the tunes and you got the people talking and then you got the greasy half-live chicken leg and you don't even see it. You just see us going. I think we need. So if any of the Joes out there wants,
you want a video and you're well versed at this, Mark, with all your video background. Bill, you're well versed at being on, commercials and TV.
Mattresses.
Mattresses. Not that kind of mattress actor.
A beautiful blonde woman.
Yes. So Doleman walks into a mattress store with some smoke show blonde and
carrying a pizza.
Yeah, says, "Honey, let's play Three Bears." Kraynak, how are you, brother? You've had a week to let all of this marinate.
Yeah, man. Okay, I think we're gonna have to pretend. I think this is natural. When somebody leaves like this, you reach the bargaining phase. You're like, well, we don't need him anyway. That guy, whatever. He got sacked all the time. He's weird. He doesn't. He cost $3.5 million. He's not worth $3.5 million, right? So we're all just kind of like processing it, like whatever. Same time, 5-star quarterback. The dude he's pretty serious arm talent. He made some throws that were pretty. They were very, very pretty. He's a talented
player.
He's a talented guy. Maryland, he did a nice job on the comeback.
Kraynak, you're supposed to do that to Maryland.
I know. See, we're bargaining here.
No, I'm not bargaining. If you are Nebraska football, you don't lose to Maryland, and you don't blow a double-digit lead because of turnovers and senseless throws. Now, I'll give him all sorts of credit for Michigan. Yeah, it is bargaining, and it is. Are you? Team Rhule or Team Raiola. And right now, I don't know that there's a ton of Team Raiola right now because of what feels like behind the scenes drama attached to it. You just talk the football part. Hey, there's upside with him and there's upside with Latif. And it sounds like and feels like there's upside with, the direction Nebraska will go at quarterback with the mobility option. Get somebody that's a thrower that, yes, can run. And this was coming. I think we all knew it. And everybody that listens to podcasts and sports talk knew this was coming. It's not if, but when. And Elijah, you circled this earlier in the week about who's running the program. And I think you're absolutely correct with it. I'll let you comment on it. And Bill, you nailed it yesterday as we always kind of get together and huddle up Saturday mornings here on the Average Joe Sports Show with Rhule's answer regarding reset. Sorry, Tuck. Tuck trying not to use the word reset till after the bowl game. But I mean, there's a lot to unpack, and it's a pretty vital 2026.
And I'm excited to get into Matt Rhule's Friday press conference, because the more time that presser and really that reset comment sits on me, the worse I feel about it. The tone just from Matt Rhule yesterday was a little different, a little edgier, and I'm not sure what that means. But to quickly first go back here to Raiola, let me say it's obvious. We can all see the kid's incredibly talented.
Yep.
Can we?
Yes, we
Okay.
The kid's incredibly talented. But
Okay.
to flip it around, was it the talent that Nebraska needed right now within the football program? No, there's a lot of other things he needed first. Like that. That's what, in terms of culture building, in terms of talent in other places, there was a lot that needed to be done. It wasn't the talent Nebraska needed right now. Somebody else, you hope, can use that talent for his sake, use that talent, lead some sort of run next year in college football, get him drafted. You always want the best for the kid. But the question this upcoming offseason, as Schmidt alluded to, which I said, is whose football program is this? And I think the last week and a half has been, or 2 weeks has been, Matt Rhule asserting, this is my football program, and I'm going to run it in the direction that I see fit. And it's clear, based on the moves he's made in the last 2 weeks, he's got some pressure on him. He's looking at his first 3 years and saying, you know what? The direction this program is headed in is not correct right now. If we keep it on this path, this is not going to be a successful football program. I need to readjust. I need to make some changes to the program. I think one of the big ones there is saying, you know what, the style of offense that we're running is not sustainable. And the offense that we're running for Dylan is not what's going to allow us to win in the Big Ten. We have to move a different direction. You see the change at defensive coordinator, you see the change on the offensive line coach. The comment yesterday getting so contentious about, is it a reset or is it a tweak, just strikes me as wrong, because we talked about yesterday with Bill, it's semantics. Reset's not a 4-letter word. It's clear you're making changes this offseason. It's clear what you've done through the first 3 years hasn't worked. It's clear the Dylan experiment at quarterback hasn't worked out successfully for you. So you're going to change. You're going to make adjustments. And whether it's a reset, whether it's tweaks, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't matter. It's a good thing moving forward that Nebraska has learned from the first 3 years and said, you know what? We're not a developmental football program right now. We're not the most physical football team on that football field. It's showing up in the final scores of games. And we needed to adjust our football program and get back to what we intended to do whenever we started out. That's my read on just the last week of Husker football, last week and a half of Husker football. Though the one weird thing is just how, almost standoffish Matt Rhule was at times yesterday.
Yeah, he's been feeling it. It's been a hell of a week, right? It's been a hell of a couple of weeks for him. Really since Penn State, right? Actually, last half of the year up through this, because after Penn State fired Ron Franklin, the year got weird. Or James Franklin, sorry. Franklin. That would have been very strange for them to fire a
deceased broadcaster.
Deceased broadcaster. That would have been very strange. I'm glad they didn't do that. That would have been really odd. For all the weird crap that Penn State's done, that would have topped the list. But in your points, it's spot on, right? Like, and it's weird that Rhule even got in that position to where that was even a question of whose program is this and whatever, but he was obviously dealing with a lot. And in terms of the dynamics of the Raiola family, right? And listen, if they were 10-2, 11-1, probably wouldn't hear a lot from Raiola family.
Winning takes care of a lot of things.
Right. But that's an odd situation to have the uncle be the O-line coach, the quarterback hotshot 5-star.
Don't forget little brother.
Exactly. And then Dayton being he cut ties with a family essentially. And he's just like, no, we're not going down this route. So there were obviously things behind the scenes that just were non-starters, and he had to make the move. I
wonder, I watched the press conference last night because I was busy grading during the day. So last night I watched the press conference. I almost wondered if he thought that Sip asked him if he heard rebuild. We talked about it yesterday: tweak, reset, rebuild, and if he was prepared to defend the term rebuild. I thought the switch that got flipped when he asked him the question, because I thought for the most part it was a fairly even presser for the most part, typical Matt Rhule. And And then he asked the question, and Sip says reset. Rhule hears rebuild. That's kind of what I thought was he was almost prepared for the question and was going to defend it. And like I said yesterday, and Elijah, you mentioned it, reset's not a 4-letter word. You reset almost every year anyway. Okay, who's my new quarterback? Who's my new defensive line?
Portal.
You reset with the defensive line last year. That didn't work out very well, but you lose Nash and Ty, and okay, we got to kind of reset things on the defensive line. We've got a new coach coming in. Every year's a reset to a certain extent. Nothing, goes through consistently every single season. Coach Osborne didn't rebuild in 91, 92. They reset the defense, moved Ed Stewart. He reset his offense in 80 when he recruited Turner Gill and they went to the option. That wasn't rebuilding. That was resetting. It was okay. It was two of the greatest moves in the history of Nebraska football. Yeah. So Matt Rhule, you've got a new quarterback next year. You're going to reset what you're going to do offensively. It's not going to be probably as pass heavy from the quarterback. You've got somebody who's more mobile, which, I've said from the beginning of this last season, he should play like a junior, not a second-year sophomore. If he's that good, if he's that talented, he had a year of experience under his belt. Raiola should have been a lot better this year, and 70% passing should not have been 7-yard attempts. So he had the weakness of not being able to run at all, and that sets your offense back in college football. And now you've got potential to have a running quarterback as your starter in TJ Lateef. And a couple of years from now, you've got a dude who's doing all kinds of great things in Mount Carmel and in Chicago, and they're resetting their offense with a quarterback that can run. They can do what you have to do in the game of college football and not relying on somebody they thought was going to, pitch it around 42, 45 times a game and, throw for 40 touchdown passes and 4 interceptions. It was almost 1-to-1 touchdowns to interceptions. I mean, okay, if Dylan Raiola, let me ask you this, or say this. If Dylan Raiola came back next year, he ought to have done a factory reset before next year.
I think this whole drama with reset and it's all just semantics.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I think he thought Sip asked him if he was rebuilding.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and we'll get Brandon Vogel on. You can't be a guy that is trying to be the face of the program, lead the program, and have what physical shape you're in hold back what you have to be able to do on offense. You have to be more mobile. You have to be more agile. Everyone has limitations. Many. I'm raising both hands when it comes to athleticism. Some guys are way better athletes. Some guys aren't. But you put the work in when it comes to your training, right, to be in better shape. If you're in better shape, it gives you more escapability. That more escapability allows you to stay on schedule. And it's better for you and your teammates, right? It's better for your offense. So you put more points on the board. It's not as much pressure on your defense. I mean, let's talk about the domino effect about what you need to do individually as a player. And that is on you to do it. And Matt Rhule talked about it 3 weeks ago with signing day. And you can't let that slide or slip or not be 1,000% committed to it and then point the finger at everybody else. And that's the part that is got to be maddening with this drama. 13-9 as a starter through 2 years. We'll never know how this season shook out. And I think Dana was right. You beat USC. Maybe it is a different season, but it went from, a decent apartment to the outhouse real quick in November after the injury. And then he had to ask some hard questions, look in the mirror and go, okay, here's a glimpse of the offense with the TJ Lateef and mobility. You like that picture a lot better than giving up 9 sacks, 7 sacks, 6 sacks, go down the list. So you had to make some tough choices on top of the investment you're spending. And I wasn't there for the Wednesday chat that Rhule talked about yesterday. But if I'm having to bet and speculate, it's like, dude, $3.5 million is a lot of money. That can go to a lot of different places on the football team. If you want to come back, you're going to have to go win the job. And you're not losing it because of injury, but you're going to have to go show that you're going to put the work in the offseason to better your body to be more escapable. Or this is what you'll need to be able to have to do, and that's be mobile. We welcome in Brandon Vogel from Counter Read. Vogue's quite a bit of drama this week that started Monday, and the bookend of it was Rhule's presser yesterday, where he got passionate is the word I'll use.
We should hear that too. We got that sound?
We do.
Yeah.
We do. And I'm sure, Vogues, you've seen it all, or if not, we can play it for you. But how's your week been, brother?
Well, it's good. I'm just happy to make it to the weekend, knowing that no regular guest of this show on Thursday called this a reset. So good job, everyone.
Safe.
That was exactly the term I used, and it's kind of how it feels. But if you want to call it a reimagining, like I heard Elijah earlier say, it's kind of a semantics argument, and I think that's ultimately what it is. Fact of the matter is, Nebraska didn't have a mobile quarterback the last 2 years, and based on what we heard yesterday, now they're going to go look for one and have one, and it has one in Latif, who's not a true dual threat, as Rhule mentioned, but can move and can escape and can extend plays, all of those classic things. So yeah, it's not, and I understand why Rhule might have bristled at that, but it's not starting over. Like, it's not like the last 3 years have been nothing. It's just, I think they kind of found through, especially this year and how it finished, like, okay, we either need to kind of get back to some of the things that we initially set out to do, or go a different direction. There's change happening, however you want to call it.
Can we pick a different word to use this offseason that won't frustrate the head man? Maybe revamp?
Revamp? It's a little gentler.
Retool, that's a good one.
Remodel.
Reload.
But we'll take other words in the stream.
Redecorate.
This is a
recruit. Come on.
Rework. I like rework.
Now listen, let's rewind real quick though. December 23. If you're Matt Rhule and you get that call from Dylan Raiola, are you telling him, nah, no thanks, or are you bringing him in?
Had to.
You have to. Yeah.
Had to, right? Had to bring him in after 1 year of Dylan Raiola with, Satterfield being replaced by Holgerson. That's good. So you bring Dylan back, right? Right? Like, makes sense that he would do that. Was anybody thinking that after his freshman year that Dylan had to go?
No. Well, let me just throw this in. I mean, don't kid yourself about the Sat for Dana trade. Rhule probably realized that there needed to be a change at offensive coordinator, but how many phone calls was he getting about who the current offensive coordinator is from Dad? I mean, there's been behind the scenes stuff for a long time. I mean, you had to make some changes, I think, to keep him for a year too, because there might have been some shopping going on.
And if you're Matt Rhule, you do that, right?
Yeah, you did.
I mean, yeah, right. You do that. So then after this year, do you continue to try to build it all around him, or do you just say no? So I don't know. I think given the circumstances, Dylan landed in his lap like 2 weeks before signing day or a week before signing day or something. Like, you got to take him, and then you got to start him because he's the best one on the campus. You just have to. So I don't really have a huge problem with what he did and is doing. I'm just saying it's not great when a statistically top 10 passer and a 5-star walks out the door. Right? It's just usually not good, but it seems like there was enough baggage with it that it just kind of is what it is, and it's okay. I just don't think I don't think Matt deserves a ton of. I don't think he deserves a ton of criticism for, I guess, how he's handled the Raiola situation.
Not at all.
I think he's responded in a pretty reasonable way. What do you think, Brandon?
Oh no, I completely agree with that. I think it was, like you said, something that landed in his lap. It's not the caliber player Nebraska historically gets. It's not the caliber player Rhule historically gets. So that's a potential complication, and I think it ended up being a complication. But I would take it even a little bit further, Mark. Like mid-October, because I remember writing about this. Like, Raiola's progress from year one hadn't been like a massive jump, but it was there. And when the Penn State job opened, we remember Raiola's Instagram post, "Our coach is staying," or whatever it is. Things changed drastically over those last 6, 7, 8 weeks of the season.
Yeah,
whatever it ended up being time-wise, to the point where the injury happens. If it doesn't happen, who knows how that thing plays out, but that's not how it played out. So here we are, but I would agree. And I wrote a column on Monday saying because the Raiola era was what I would describe as kind of a push. Like, it wasn't bad, but it also didn't get Nebraska or Raiola, I think, as far as they wanted to be, as quickly as they wanted to be. You had Jeff Sims because of the Raiola situation. Kyle McCord ends up going to Syracuse and throwing for a ton of yards. And they haven't gotten the quarterback right yet, I guess is the point. And they got to for 2026.
Wow.
Brandon Vogel with us here.
Can I throw this out there?
Go ahead.
Do we know that the Royals plan to transfer? Or was there a trial balloon? Because didn't we go through this song and dance last year? And it was, oh no, they got to get him back and all that. Is it possible that there was, well, let's just see, and let's hold the feet to the fire again. Let's see if we can't get some more changes on the coaching staff and see what the public outcry is, test public opinion. And when public opinion wasn't what it was a year ago for Keona Davis, for Emmett Johnson, and when the rumors were early last week or whatever it was that he was getting into the portal, there was not exactly a, oh my God, what are you going to do to keep him? I think there was a lot of people outside, holding the door saying fans were done with the drama. There was not the outcry for when it started to percolate that he might go to the portal. And when the news broke, I did not get whole lot of, oh my God, we got to keep him. And public opinion was such that it wasn't like it was for Emmett Johnson a year ago. No. And now you got to go. But it has been a lot different reaction to his transfer portal announcement than what we saw last year for a couple of other players. And even when he flirted with it as well, I think that there's a large portion of the Husker Nation, which is a term I don't love, but that
Steve Peterson coined it.
Ready to move on. I know that's one of the reasons, but it just seems to me that I don't think the reaction was what they were expecting.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. And the other, it's strange, the difference that you're talking about there, Bill. I think from last year, where, and kind of to what Mark was saying, it's like no brainer. Like you don't want to lose face and have the 5-star leave after a year, because what's that say about your program? And this is true everywhere across college football, but like with the financial piece added into it, I think we're seeing something unique in college. And I'm not saying this happened with Raiola, I don't know, but I think what we're seeing elsewhere is like, sure, everybody's a potential free agent. In the NFL, like you go out into the market, if you have good value, you command the most, and you sign a contract, and that's that. Most of these things are like year to year. So if you invest heavily and the guy comes back the next year is like, okay, well, I was at X year one, I'd like to be at Y year two. And it's like, well, maybe you didn't play to X standards, like you have the potential to go down because like none of this stuff is guaranteed as far as we know. So I think we're seeing that in college football, particularly this offseason. And again, like I'm not saying that's what happened with Raiola, but just looking at it broadly, it's a real quirk to this whole system.
And one of the reasons I think we have this specific reaction from Husker fans, which is all right, let's see what's next, is you had a player that became bigger than the program with the comparisons to Mahomes and everyone cracking jokes. You had a player where the name on the back of his jersey was bigger than the name on the front of the jersey. And that's why I think something like Dylan Raiola leading the team out of the tunnel every single game starts to wear on some people. It's because you're looking at
your teammates.
Yeah. And you're looking at this guy and you're saying, hey, he's a great football player. For a true sophomore in college, he's a great football player. Does he have things to work on? Yes. Just about everyone that's a 19-year-old college student that is trying to play the game of football eventually professionally is going to have things to work on.
He's very accurate, except 30 plus yards. Yeah.
So there are things to work on. But the thing that wore on people is the fact that you're like, okay, let's talk Husker football. Let's not talk Dylan Raiola. And everyone nationally, whenever they saw Husker football, they thought Dylan Raiola instead of the program. Instead of thinking wins, instead of thinking whatever, they thought Dylan Raiola. I think that's really started to wear on people as the months went on, as especially you weren't winning games.
Mm-hmm. He had a fatal flaw though. Like, and the canary in the coal mine, I think, was Illinois last year, right? When fourth quarter, they're sending the blitzes up the middle, and he just handled it strangely, right? You just saw him just kind of accept the sack. And you're sort of like, that was weird. But okay, true freshman, he'll figure it out. Kind of never figured it out. Like that part never got fit. And then Michigan this year was another where you're just like, okay, red flag. Like, yes, your tackles got obliterated on a couple plays, but he also just kind of chilled and accepted the sack. And then that just kept happening. And you're like, that's not getting fixed. I don't know how you fix that, because that's hard to practice too. You can practice the footwork. Anybody can do that. We can go do that right now. We can log off and go practice scooting around and doing the footwork, but it's not easy to practice 280 pounders, breathing fire flying at you.
One thing I said,
it was this fatal flaw, raising canes.
One thing I said after the Minnesota game that people didn't take well, but I still think can be true, is think back to the Bo Pelini years, and I know it's a different style of quarterback, different style of offense. Through the spring and through fall camp, your quarterbacks weren't wearing non-contact jerseys. That's a factor.
Yeah.
And not to say you want your defensive linemen in practice killing your quarterbacks. You definitely don't. But whenever there's no expectation of getting hit whenever you do hold the football too long in practice,
games are all of a sudden weird.
Yeah.
Games are just like, whoa, what is this? Like, I got a guy with a beard from the Upper Peninsula in Michigan coming to, yeah, it's different. It's different. I don't know. It seems like it had to happen. So we had that sound for where Matt got a little testy.
Yep.
With, are we resetting? Are we not?
Let me reset real quick.
I just said
Brandon Vogel with us, Connor Reed, Mark Kraynak, Bill Doleman, Prada Fairberry, Elijah Herbel.
Now we got the Raising Canes chat going.
You've got
recommendations.
Sport Show 7 days a week on YouTube. Here is Sip's question. Here's Matt Rhule's answer.
What do you think with all the changes? When you hear the term program reset, is this a reset?
No, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I've never heard the term program reset. We're building. The program was dead for 10 years. We went to back-to-back bowl games. I don't know why why like Nebraskans, like we are moving forward. It's just not as fast as Indiana did it. And people ask me that all the time. I'm frustrated, but we did it a lot faster than some of the other teams that got hired at the same time did it. So we are just continuing to build. Coach Belichick told me years ago, it'll take you 3 years to get the right staff, so we're just every year we're evolving. We're getting better. But program reset, I mean, I don't know why anyone would say that. Just maybe it makes people click on more things. I don't know, but man, we just we just won 7 games. Should it have been 9? Yes, it should have been 9. So I'm tweaking. I'm just tweaking, right? Tweaking. And the thing I hope everyone appreciates at least is I sit up here all the time. I say, it's me, it's me, it's me. Now I have to make tough decisions. So when I fire a coach, I'm not saying it's his fault. What I'm saying is I have to just tweak this. We got to get better and better and better. So we won 5 the first year, we won 6 the second year, we won 7 the last year. We fell apart at the end of the year. We're not doing a good enough job at the end of the season. So we're going to look at everything. That's not a reset. That's just like a process of like just growing and growing and growing and building and building and building, so.
Well, and that was kind of the takeaway yesterday. The other takeaway, Vogues, is you've got a alter ego, Coach Rhule versus Matt. Can we all can we do this? Can we go over the top?
Is that? Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
And I got 3 disdainers.
Colin Cowherd somewhere is just
no. I know. I
backwards hat kind of guy.
Right? Yeah. And I have failed as a parent because Junior likes to wear his hat backwards, and that makes me sad. But
ever since Ken Griffey Jr. came out doing it, I think he normalized it, and it's all fine.
But Griffey's about the only one that can do it. Vogues, with your hat on backwards, we'll call you Brandon. What'd you think of Rhule being more hands-on? I like hearing that. He wants to be more into football versus this figurehead. And let's see how this defensive line performs against Utah. That's kind of next on my bingo card. What am I going to see here a week from Wednesday?
Yeah, it was a good answer, and I think it felt pretty honest and true, and I think also kind of revealed something about the past couple of Nebraska seasons. I mean, that answer kind of led to one later towards the end of his press conference where he talked about things that weren't done before when they arrived, which
culture
was interesting. At Big Ten Media Days, we were talking about putting up a photo of Frost from his playing days in the practice facility. And then yesterday felt a little bit different in terms. I mean, I think that, as far as I can recall, was kind of the first time that Rhule had so directly acknowledged of like, hey, look, there was a lot of stuff to fix. And it's a result of Nebraska's, we'll use Rhule's term, slow growth. And that's fine. Like you can point to the growth part of it. And he mentioned it's been slower, but than some places and faster than others. I was looking at this last night because of that, because I was kind of interested in terms of FBS or like power conference coaches that were in that 2023 cycle. I think you could say Nebraska is definitively better than Auburn at this point, which fired its head coach.
Let's go.
And Wisconsin. Colorado and Cincinnati. It's a little bit, I'd probably say better than Colorado. Certainly on more solid footing than Colorado going into 2026. Cincinnati, 20-17. That feels about right.
Head to head.
Yeah,
you got the head to head.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they get the tiebreaker on that, but that's kind of what it is at this point. And Indiana was a year later, but still faster. Rhule acknowledged that, and credit to him for doing that. He talked about it on his podcast this week, which is also interesting. So, I mean, it's a true picture of where Nebraska is entering 2026.
How many coaches are like that behind the scenes? Like that damn Signetti, like he's screwing up everybody.
All of them. Everyone's getting paid, but I mean, they all have to win at the Signetti pace.
But what if Signetti had only gotten 2 to 10, transfers as opposed to 30 from his program that was good at that level. They were experienced guys. The whole thing is an anomaly. And he built what he did. He built what he did at James Madison, and he had veteran guys who came over with him and helped him establish the whole culture, all that stuff. So if Kenny Dillingham goes to Michigan,
he just signed an extension with Arizona State
and takes 20 players or more with him to Michigan, Michigan's not going to drop off, I don't think, because you're going to have people who are going to establish this is what KD does and this is how we do things, and it'll be better. If Kyle Whittingham goes to Michigan, which I joked about a couple of weeks ago, and who knows, maybe it'll be a reality that they rent a coach for a couple of years, have somebody with some adult supervision over the program, and 20 players transfer out of Utah to follow him because he's been ousted at Utah. But when you only getting 2 to 4 to 8, and they're all coming from different parts, Nebraska's grabbing one from Idaho and Georgia Southern and East Tennessee State. And, it's just this hodgepodge of players coming in, and you're trying to plug holes. Meanwhile, Cignetti brings a whole, house with him to build around and plug in Indiana players into his system. It wasn't the other way around. The whole Cignetti thing is an anomaly that no coach should say, this is what we're going to do unless I'm going to get the job and I'm bringing half of all my good guys with me. The rest of you guys can stay back.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about it quite a bit. And I think there are probably 4 factors to Indiana doing what it has done. He was able to import his culture with all of those transfers, with the sheer number of them, which is something that's just recently available to coaches. But the second part, and I think this is the most important part, he was at a place where there's no sense of, well, that's not how we do things here. And you have that at Nebraska. You have that in Michigan. You have it in Texas, LSU, Alabama, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a blank page like it to the degree it was at Indiana. Indiana is spending like a top half Big Ten team. That's important in this era. And then fourth, something we were talking about with Rhule going to 2026, he got quarterback right twice. Nathan Rourke was what they needed in year 1, and then Mendoza in year 2. In 2024, he had the exact same QBR as Dylan Raiola, and this year he won the Heisman. Like, that's not all Mendoza.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we talk quarterback here quickly, looking ahead to Nebraska, where does quarterback rank on your portal needs for Nebraska now, given what we know? Raiola's out the door. You have Latif, going to start the bowl game. Where is quarterback on your big board, your power rankings of what Nebraska needs out of the portal?
I mean, I would put it at the top or probably 2. Like, they just don't have the depth. So whether or not they're trying to, find a starter, or they're opening it up, it's total competition, which I think is what they would do and would be the fair thing to do. They've got to bring in somebody. I think they don't have a high school quarterback in this class, and help isn't arriving in that front until 2027. So just from a numbers perspective, they have to, I think do something.
Vogues, what'd you think of Oklahoma-Bama, brother?
Really entertaining game, which isn't always a given. I mean, last year in the first round, we didn't have any. I don't think that stayed good for most of 4 quarters. I think I was really impressed with Oklahoma early on. Like, they were savage, and they looked like they were a team playing on their home field in the playoff. And Alabama kind of withstood the flurry of punches. And I think we'll see how today's games go, but it kind of highlighted for me that you've really got to be able to win on both offense and defense if you want to last in this tournament that we have now. It's really hard to be one-handed. And I think, offense probably wins early in the playoff, and defense probably wins it late for you. And that's what Ohio State was able to do a year ago. They could do both. Like, they put a drubbing on Tennessee, and then won a tough game that ended up being tight against Notre Dame for the championship. So it kind of highlighted for me, and we'll see what today brings. Maybe this defeats that theory entirely, but it was an example of how well-rounded you need to be. And
well, I stepped on you there. Sorry. Will I want to ask you about Nebraska when it comes to the playoffs, and
where the watch party is?
No. Oh. In 3 years, will you see Nebraska in that moment, either hosting or in a playoff game? Because we're talking Cignetti, we're talking reset or retool, talking your 5-star moving on, you're talking portal quarterbacks. What about where Nebraska's place is? And I know they're miles and miles and miles away right now, but you can get that turned quicker than ever before in today's college football world. So if the shot clock starts right now, are we talking about Nebraska in that moment within this next 3-year window?
Yeah, I think
we need to be talking about it. I wonder if it can happen.
I think it can happen. I think any team that's, and this, these are assumptions, but somewhat informed assumptions, like any program in a power conference is going to spend more than 20 million on its roster, maybe more than 25, has that chance to be in a 12-team field, and could be expanding in that time frame. Something will definitely happen to change the format a little bit. So yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic at all to say, yeah, you could see Nebraska in that scenario. And it would be amazing. Like the Oklahoma game last night looked amazing because they got to host a playoff game. They've been in the playoff plenty, haven't had the success that they wanted, but just seeing that stadium, which we're all very familiar with, and it's like, oh yeah, the playoff is here for them. It was cool.
As you look ahead, Indiana, Alabama coming next round. Curt Cignetti against his former team. That guy's always got bulletin board material, and I feel like he's going to have some ready. I'm looking forward to that. Not to zoom past at least one good game on a college football Saturday here with the college football playoff, but that matchup intrigues me more than Oklahoma and Indiana would have. Alabama, Indiana just has great game written all over it.
Yeah, and kind of the irony of, I guess, last night's game is Oklahoma is one-handed. Alabama's pretty one-handed for Alabama as well, and we'll see what happens with Indiana and Alabama, but like Indiana's more well-rounded. So right now, I like the Hoosiers in that game.
You're talking about Cignetti and his former team being Alabama, and not Cignetti and his former team being the Christian Laettner pick of James Madison, correct?
Yes.
We got Tulane and James Madison playing today.
Mm-hmm. You sound excited, Bill.
Well, first of all, I would like to welcome or thank Nick Saban and Urban Meyer for listening to the Average Joe Sports Show after the when were we down at Gate 25 after the Creighton game or the Wisconsin game or whatever
Creighton.
It was.
Creighton.
I had an impassioned opinion about the two Christian Laettners who are getting to play on the Dream Team. They don't belong. And Nick Saban said it's like having the minor league AAA champion getting a chance to play in the World Series. So I'm happy that those guys listen to the Average Joe Sports Show. It's ridiculous. Does anybody think James Madison is going to go to Oregon and win? Tulane's going to win. When you look at the field of 12, so is Nebraska going to be in a college football playoff? As long as they're giving out ribbons to teams to go play in the Division I college football playoff, there are going to be very good teams as Texas, Notre Dame, right?
Listen, I do think Tulane deserves it. James Madison.
No, they don't. Okay,
Tulane
beat
the ACC champion.
Okay, no. Look, they might deserve it because they played, but that's what the rules are. But you are never going to convince me that James Madison and Tulane and their ilk in the years going forward are always going to be among the best 16 teams that are going to win a national championship. It's not going to happen. Alabama got in with 3. Do you think Alabama gets in with 3 losses? You don't think that they would destroy either one of those two teams?
I'm with you on James Madison. You only know till you find out in the field. The thing with Tulane is they beat Power 4 opposition and they beat the ACC champion this year.
Whoa. Okay. They beat the ACC. That's to be confused, not to be confused. That's to be confused with the AAC champion.
Listen, if Nebraska volleyball can fall, so can Oregon tonight. You never know. All right.
Okay. I'm looking forward to that 3. I'm looking forward to that 3-game push that James Madison or Tulane makes all the way to winning the national championship. They got ribbons, and as long as they got ribbons, the playoffs are farce.
Yeah. Well, speaking of volleyball, we told everyone 4 years ago that Trev Alberts will be presiding over an athletic department whose volleyball team's playing for a national title and is hosting a college football playoff game today. We all would have been in a pretty good spot.
That a kid, Trev? Oh, wait. Folks, are you team A&M before we let you go? Are you going with the maroon today?
I'm rarely team A&M. That's just that's me. I find the place, like, I'm sure if you went there, it's the best place in the world. I did not go there, and I find the whole thing a bit weird. So I've been there. I've been there one time. But yeah, no. I guess it's the U for me.
What did Claus call it? What did Claus call it today? Cultists versus Catholics.
Yes.
No, it was convicts. No.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Yes.
The old Catholics versus convicts T-shirt from
the Catholics are sitting on their couch.
88 game. Yeah, but Miami is a Catholic university, just so you know. But Vogues, tell us about Counter Read, brother. Fun to chat this morning. We appreciate you always, man.
Yeah. It's a 4 times weekly newsletter from myself and Aaron Sorensen. You can sign up and get 2 of those newsletters for free. 2 are for subscribers only. So you get a chance to kind of check out what we're up to. And we got plenty coming up in terms of processing, I think, still, for me at least. Rhule's press conference yesterday and some of what we saw there, kind of got some big picture thoughts on college football playoff, and we'll see how things unfold today. But plenty coming up. We don't really have any days off planned for the next couple of weeks. So if you need something to read during the holidays, it'll be there.
Subscribe as well. Get that Husker fan the gift that keeps on giving, Clark. Brandon Vogel at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, thank you much. Have a good weekend.
You too, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. There he is, Brandon Vogel. Eddie's in the Iron Horse. Gary Sharp with us. Sharpie, how's your
morning, boys?
Man? How we doing?
Good. I'm in just outside of Houston this morning.
Coach Gary, right? Because your hat's on backwards.
Yeah, I'm surprised that the other 4 wackos have not turned your hat around.
We did.
Conversation.
Vogues and I did a little bit ago. The other 3 are too cool.
Didn't. I have too much respect for Colin Cowherd. Simple as that.
That's one of the first things I thought of when I saw Rhule on his coach's show with his hat backwards is, oh my God, Colin Cowherd's going to pay attention to Nebraska again.
All part of the plan, Gary. All part of the plan. Pay attention.
I know, man. It's all about branding. It's all about the conversation. I get it. You got to stay relevant.
Well, there's ways to be relevant.
Yeah, by playing a home playoff game, which would have been really, really cool. I think anybody that gets a chance to experience a home playoff game, and I don't care what level, like FCS, I think one of the best games of the weekend is today in Bozeman. With Montana State. But I think a home playoff game, I mean, the atmosphere in Norman last night looked fantastic. I can only think about what it would be like in Lincoln, which would be, one of the biggest sporting events in the history of the state of Nebraska. But you got to get there. And we'll see. But yeah, what an interesting week, huh, guys?
So we've talked this week about the brokenness of the bowl system in college football. And here's the thought. Hey, maybe let's make all of the playoff games up until the national championship home games on campus sites, and then put your national championship game at the Rose Bowl, the most scenic spot in college football. And then you return all the other New Year's Day bowl games, the Sugar Bowl, the Fiesta Bowl, whatnot. Return all those back to the other teams in college football, because no one cares about winning a Sugar Bowl anymore. No one cares about winning it. You only care about winning the national championship game. Put a little meaning back in those games. Those teams that barely miss the playoff, hey, you can go play in the Fiesta Bowl or Sugar Bowl, whatnot. And then your Rose Bowl champion, that's your national champion. All the other games are at home campus sites, because we've seen how much fun those are.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're inching closer as we expand the playoff to whatever happens with the bowl system. It's more of a TV show than it is to be in person. Like, for example, the Bahamas Bowl, rest in peace, had 4,000 people in attendance, but yet ESPN got 1.14 million people to watch it. So they think it was a success. The locals are probably like, well, I do miss the Bahamas Bowl, especially if you go back 8 years ago, the Reddit post about a guy that went to the Bahamas Bowl and it was a circus, but it was a fun circus. I don't know. I've advocated now to move like the Las Vegas Bowl, for example. And I think there's some intrigue in the game, But wouldn't that be cool to kick off the year in the middle of August in Vegas? And for 8 months, you're going to start in the Vegas Bowl against Utah. And that's how you're going to kick off the season. And that's how we'd kick off college football with some of these, like, not top tier, but middle tier bowl games are the beginning to your season. And let some of the lower bowl games just go away. Mm-hmm. And I think we move up. I think we move up the playoff a week. It was almost, we had 2 weeks off after the regular season and the championship games. And then last night you're like, oh, here we go again. We're into the playoff mode. That'd be great to have it like just right, like last week, have the Saturday sandwiched around the Heisman Trophy presentation, or vote for the Heisman Trophy, but not announce it until the postseason is over. Something like that. I don't know. We got to do something with the calendar. We got to do something with the bowl games. But man, bowl playoff games on campus. I hope when they get to 16, kind of to your point, Elijah, we get 8 home playoff games. Because don't you think Indiana would much rather have Alabama have to come to Bloomington than to both teams go out to Pasadena to play?
Yep. Yeah. Probably.
Well, hey, what does Nebraska, speaking of the calendar, what does Nebraska have to do to start winning in November? Matt is 2-10. Last 10 years, the program's 8-31 in November. What does Matt have to do in the offseason to rectify that part?
Reset.
No, that's ridiculous. What does he have to do? What is that? Is it? I got an idea.
Run the ball, stop the run.
Okay, run the ball.
And isn't it interesting that did you see their hashtag that they've gone with now? Pound the rock.
What? When did that start?
Yesterday. When they announced their new run game coordinator.
God, that'll fix everything. A new hashtag.
Well,
the program's been missing.
We have to dig out the Callahan Rock from outside the Hawks facility now, because Pound the Rock has already been used 20 years ago.
Well, I mean, yeah. And that rock, by the way, seems like it got smaller, but I'm glad they didn't throw it away. And if you know, when you walk by the Hawks Championship Center, you're like, that's the Callahan Rock. I wish there was video of the day that they had to move that from where it was to move it outside, because that rock was not light.
No.
I've actually been going Shawshank Redemption on that thing. I've been chipping off little pieces and putting them in my pocket and taking them home with me.
That's when I was not expecting that analogy this morning. Well done. I don't know. I mean, it just is. It's simple. I also, it's yesterday was kind of interesting with Rhule, because the messaging inside the program is they're close. I know people don't want to hear that because that happened in the previous regime, but the USC game is referenced a bit about if Dylan doesn't get hurt, or they complete a tunnel screen to Ja'Cory Barney and he hits his head on the goalpost. Mm-hmm. How much that would have changed the discussion around here. But remember, Nebraska turned around with a little bit of adversity, went on the road and won at UCLA. I think not only to win in November, you got to be able to run the ball, stop the run, stay healthy, but also you can't get fat and happy. And I think the more I think about some of the discussion post Iowa, now that we're into bowl prep and you've got some guys that are gone, some guys that have come in, Nebraska got fat and happy after UCLA. Hey, look at that, man. Latif helped us win a game on the road. We've gotten to 7. We're going to go play a Penn State team that isn't the Penn State team we expect. And then we've been gearing up for Iowa. Man, we've got 9 wins. We're going to show them Dylan is down, but we won 9 games. They got fat and happy. And somehow the disconnect between what a head coach thought he would get out of his team and what the team thought they were going to do, and there was no energy. I mean, those last 2 games were kind of frightening. But I think it's going to be, that's not who we are. This is who we can be, and we have fixed that in a short amount of time. I don't know. The messaging back and forth and the trust is going to be quite an experiment, I think, over the next 8 months as this roster starts to evolve and you get to know more about the new guys and you look ahead to 26, which is, at the end of the day, I don't care how you do it. You got to win football games. Mm-hmm. Football games that matter have to be on the ledger next year.
Mm-hmm. And there's plenty on the schedule next year, but you're not wrong. It was interesting to see this team and their performance as we look through the regular season going into Minnesota, they were maybe a little fat and happy, right? Then they got slapped around. Then they put a couple of wins together, and then there's, UCLA, to your point, and there was probably more time needed by the head man to know really what headspace his team was in. And he talked about being more hands-on and coaching more football yesterday, Sharpie. And maybe he'll be, yes, still the figurehead, still the guy who's running the show, but maybe he'll be more immersed in it. You've got changes on staff. You're going to be portal shopping and looking at quarterback. You have the whole saga that, finally came to a stop with your 5-star quarterback on Monday. A ton going on with this team. And right now, the tone of the fan base is what you would say?
Oops.
I would say, I don't know. That's a great question, because I think it depends on what your expectations were this past year. I think how you look at the program moving forward. You can, Rhule gets credit for not dingling and dangling and dragging his feet on changes that need to be made. He made those changes. He admitted yesterday, I think he did a tell of himself that some people will accept as, okay, you got to be honest in this business, professionally. Some will be, you know what, this isn't good. I should have gotten involved earlier. And I've said that for a couple of weeks is, if you've ever seen him in practice, and I didn't get to see them practice out, like outside of the media window this year, but last year, so they have Rhule mic'd up at practice. This was last year. And so everybody can hear him. And it's not like they're filming. It's so that everybody knows what's going on.
Right.
But he had this really unique relationship with Terrence Knighton. Like they were almost like they would kid each other and they would get after each other. And, Rhule would make comments about, I can come down there and coach your unit. And, Knighton would walk away and Rhule would jump in and they would coach. It's just, you are the overseer of your program. And whether you want to step on somebody's toes or not, because they're a new coach or whatever, that's your program. At the end of the day, John Butler doesn't have a coaching record. Terry Braden doesn't have a coaching record. It's Matt Rhule's coaching record. And I was glad that he admitted that yesterday. But we all ask, if you saw that, you had a chance to really help this season. You couldn't go out and acquire any new defensive linemen. But if it was just energy and being aligned with the DC on the call to where the defensive linemen were, how come you didn't recognize that and fix that in real time and let that go? And then just kind of said, all right, at the end of the year, we know we got to make a change, instead of seeing it even in the middle of October to go, okay, we're not going to do this. This is what we need to fix. It's kind of confusing. I think maybe that's a good word, is confused, on what's the next step and where the program is going. But man, you're asking for people to give you a lot of trust that they can see what you can see, in terms of taking the next step.
Hey, Malcolm Hartzog enters the portal. Do we think that's a play similar to like a Keona Davis, where it's go in the portal, up your ante a little bit, get paid?
With the way the calendar is currently set up, I don't think anyone that's entering their name in the portal is trying to make that power play. All the conversations that have needed to be had have been had. Yeah. If you're going to enter the portal at this point, still a couple weeks before the portal opening, you're out the door. That's
find a spot.
That's the new calendar.
Yeah, that and kind of to Elijah's point, Mark, remember last year when Emmett and Keona went in, the portal was already open.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a single-digit guy. And, for anybody that follows the single-digit situation, that's kind of like a coach's way of naming semi-captains by giving you a single-digit guy heading to the portal. Cause for concern?
I'll jump in here first. And Justice, I think, said this best on our show yesterday. It's a loss. It's a guy that has been an experienced member of your secondary. And with the amount of takeaways that guy's had over a couple of seasons, it's not a coincidence. He finds himself in the right place at the right times way too often for it to be coincidence. But he's also a guy that got picked on. And you look at this room next year, especially with the addition of a taller cover corner in Danny Odom. And I think stylistically, I'm not sure if there was a fit for Malcolm Hartzog just based on stature. You're going to have some bigger corners next year. Andrew Marshall, Donovan Jones, Danny Odom comes in, bigger frame. I'm just not sure there was a fit in the room for Hartzog, and he kind of probably, after some conversations with some coaches, saw the writing on the wall and said, you know what, if I'm going into my last year and I want to play, I'm not sure this is the spot for me. That's how I see this going. Not to say he wouldn't have played, but I think he sees the writing on the wall, especially with the guy like Buford last year that got overtaken by some younger guys as the season went on. Despite how experienced he was in that back end, I think it's all things you look at and you say, you know what, if I want to have a senior year to put some things on film and try to make a shot at playing at the next level, I got to go find another place to play. That's how I see this situation.
I had chalked him up as one of Nebraska's 5 starters in the secondary next year, though. Right. So he probably found his way in. So without him, you'll go in the portal and maybe you'll get somebody else. But from the existing roster, who do you see taking one of those other spots now that he's out? I'm going with the Caleb Benning. I think that's probably the guy that elevates.
This staff is incredibly high on Danny Odom. And I'm incredibly high.
And they should be. He's a steal to keep in this class.
I think they see realistic true freshman playing time for Danny Odom next year. And I don't
then you put
that's really wrong. If you go watch his tape, he looks pretty special.
And so you put Donovan Jones then in the slot, basically, right, as a nickel.
Or you could put Marshall in the slot. I can't remember who brought this up in the stream yesterday. Marshall played the nickel in the slot for Orich whenever they were both at Idaho.
Okay. They both hit. I mean, you just need somebody that can hit.
Well, I think
still in the run game.
I think the edge, I think linebacker, and I think the nickel are going to be very sexy positions in this new defense. I think you need
peso, right?
You need a difference maker.
Bringing back the peso.
Yeah, Nebraska.
Is that what's happening?
The peso defense was like one of the original 4-2-5s in college football.
Yeah,
Jimmy Gomes and Haig and Dennard
so those kind of guys. Like I think the back end, like the one guy I would take in the Big Ten on somebody else's roster to put on Nebraska's roster is Caleb Downs, because of what Caleb Downs does in the back end. But then he is versatile enough that he might even, for a couple of plays, slide up and play some linebacker. But he can slide all over in the back end and be the quarterback back there. But also, they don't test the middle of the field against Ohio State because he's out there somewhere. I would love to have that. But here's the thing about your point, Mark, who's going to take over? And I think, Hartzog had some experience. I thought during his career, they tried to protect him, and he was a little bit mismanaged on what position was best for him. And he kind of slid safety, cornerback. Yeah. I think he's in the way of development of young guys. And so at some point you played a lot of football and you're like, hey, do what's best for you. We're going to do what's best for us. But now it opens the door to some young guys. I think get ready. When we see the spring game, I think or the bowl game, I think it's a spring game. I think you're going to see a lot of guys play on defense, and especially in that back end, because you have a lot of young guys that have played a little bit more than others. But like, wouldn't you want to see against Utah, like Sanders get in there and play a little bit? Just to get a little bit of a test, a little bit of a, not test, but a little bit of a eyeball on what you're getting when he plays against, not Houston Christian or Akron. He's playing against Utah.
Hartzog's going to be missed because of his experience and presence. And the last couple of years for him have been a waste. They finally, when they got him repositioned out of the cornerback spot and put him at safety, that protects Nebraska because he's 5'6". If he was a 6'3" corner, he'd be heading to the NFL, but that's just not going to happen. But then Tommy Hill gets hurt and he gets moved back to corner. After finding new life at safety, gets moved back to corner, and teams start doing all that again. This year he's hurt. But what they'll miss is he did have a very popular presence in the locker room, unlike other people we've talked about today. So that's where Nebraska is going to lose out with Malcolm Hartzog leaving. But when it comes to schematics, I think that they'll probably find somebody better at whatever position that he was going to play. So it's a loss by presence, but not by, playing skill and ability.
Don't overlook this part of the defensive backs. And this is a little bit of Hartzog and kind of what he was and, what he could have been, what he wasn't, is he played for 4 different defensive back coaches in 4 years.
Yeah.
And so
they all vaulted him to his starting position.
Well, you remember his freshman year, he played pretty well. I mean, they found the right key for him with Evan Cooper. Coop leaves. Here comes, John Butler. Not Evan Cooper, but who is the DB coach on Frost's last staff?
Yeah, God, it's so hard to remember. There's been so many. There's been so many.
Phil Elmo.
It was not Elmo. It wasn't Darlington.
He really blended well with Coop, and then Butler comes in, and then Addison Williams. I tell you, of the staff changes, don't overlook the fact that Nebraska's been able to retain Addison Williams. Because you couldn't afford to have another new voice and
Travis
face
Fisher.
in
Thank you
that
on the stream. That's what it was. Travis Fisher.
Well, and I will say this about T-Fish is he challenged Hartzog, just got him to, you are in college now, you got to do this. And I think he really responded, but don't overlook the fact that their ability to retain Addison Williams, how important that is. Because I think the guys in the DB room like him, they've responded to him. And there's a bunch of young guys there that to have some stability with year 2 of a guy that knows all of your weaknesses and strengths. And it's not like I got to introduce myself again. He knows them. I think that'll be a big feather in the cap of Nebraska in 26 is on the back end. They have some stability because that's where they have some talent that you go, not only Danny Odom coming, but some other guys that are young. I mean, that's a deep room. Maybe too many guys are in that room, but it's a deep room and most of them are really young.
Well, as we briefly talk about coaches here, it seems like Nebraska has lost out on the Elijah Robinson bidding war. Who knows, really? But it seems like A&M is going to be the spot for Robinson to return home to whenever their college football playoff run ends, whether that's today, whether that's next week. Nebraska, from what I understand, was prepared for that as soon as last week. They were evaluating backup options should they not win the bidding war for Elijah Robinson. What is your response if they do lose out on Robinson, and where do they go next, Gary?
My response would be is that what Texas A&M is going to offer him, because Nebraska was ready to play the game money-wise, is a title. You know, how much say do you have in the defense of Texas A&M? And it's also a place that he is super familiar with. He's been there before. They know him. He knows them. He knows how it operates there. I don't know in particular names. I know that they've looked to the SEC of guys that maybe were on previous staffs in the SEC that their head coach got fired, that they've dabbled with. But aren't they going to, if you're listening to Rhule and his time now that he spent with the defensive line, aren't they going to, doesn't it seem like they're going to try and hire a clone of Rhule? A guy that knows defensive line, but a guy that brings a ton of energy, but probably more important than anything, guy's got to be able to recruit. I think the defensive line coach, his strength will be recruiting, energy, NFL.
Sounds like Carl Pelini to me.
What do you think of Teasley and Wade?
I think Jeep Wade is very interesting. I think, that room needs to be part of the offensive line needs to be as a group, I think, more talked about with the team. Like they have to have guys that are recognizable. I know that's not how offensive linemen work, but I think it's important that those guys are some of the first people you want to talk to, that are some of the better players on the roster. I think if you're going to replace a guy that was really popular inside of the room in Donnie, I think Jeep Wade seems like the perfect guy. Now, the run game coordinator is kind of interesting because it has happened in Nebraska before, but it's not a regular thing. I still think he's more recruiting than anything, and that's Jeep Wade's room. But, if you go back to the days of Dan Young and Milt Tenneper, and Milt Tenneper is one of the greatest offensive line coaches of all time, one guy coached interior, the other guy coached tackle. And they kind of talked about the run game and the pass game, and it was more run game back then. I don't know how that all works together, but I see more of the recruiting than I do of getting down deep in the offensive line part. But I like the offensive line addition because I think it also gives you an idea of what they're looking for in terms of how it connects with the offense. Because I think there were probably times where what they wanted to do on offense, and granted, there was the blocking and the holding on the ball, that kind of stuff, is always didn't align. It seems like they're trying to get more alignment with things that make sense, where you hire somebody what they've come from, what they like to teach makes sense for everybody else, what they like to teach on that side of the ball.
Yeah. And the offensive line room, you mentioned that Donnie was popular, but that's kind of how offensive lines roll anyways, right? They're good soldiers. they believe in the unit. There's not a lot of individuality. So of course they're going to like him. The biggest difference sounds like we're going to see, Rhule mentioned it some, is trying to get guards and centers that are a little more athletic and that move. So you can do some counters. You can just vary your run game more than Nebraska has probably had, because y'all, if for as good of a season as Emmett had this year, would you say it was a good running team though? I know that's maybe it's a little bit weird on the surface, but it didn't seem like a lot of Emmett's plays were based on the play design.
Yeah.
It was more
a lot of yards after contact.
Yeah, it was him juking the hell out of somebody that was in the way, right? Like that. It didn't seem like they were good system runs. It felt like Emmett just shook the crap out of everybody this year, right? Like it wasn't a good running team, in my opinion, despite what Emmett did. It just felt like if you were to tip the scales, was that the offensive line doing their job to get Emmett a bunch of yards, or was it Emmett kind of overcoming? I would lean much heavier that way.
Look, I think it was a running scheme that was designed around what your back did well. And Emmett Johnson had great vision, his ability to make a guy miss. Like, you look at what teams are doing against Nebraska, which is a lot of power, counter. We're going to kick the end out, give you one hole to read, and go hit that hard. I don't think that is necessarily what Emmett does best. I think it was just a running scheme that was designed around what your running back does well. Not to say that you don't have a point with the fact that Emmett was making more hay than the offensive line was. But I just think it was a running scheme that, hey, your offensive line wasn't asked to do too much, a lot more shield blocking. Wherever the hole ends up being, Emmett will find it, and Emmett's going to hit that hole hard and go pick up some yards. I don't think it's necessarily an indictment on Nebraska, the scheme that they ran this year. I just think it kind of fit the personnel that you had.
Yeah, I don't know that it's a scheme problem. I'm talking execution. I just, right? Like, to me, a good running team, if Emmett goes out, you're still moving the ball on the ground. That's a good running team. You're still moving the ball on the ground. But they couldn't do really anything without him. He was the run game. There was no other run game.
Well, you're going to find out, how good the offensive line at running the football in the bowl game, because Emmett's not going to be around. So if Mosey goes off for 115, or Quentin Ives has a nice little transfer portal showcase with 75 yards rushing, and Mekhi Nelson all of a sudden breaks free, it's like, well, maybe that offensive line was actually pretty good in the run game. They probably should have run the ball more, but there's no EJ running in the bowl game, and who knows what Utah has on its side of the ball. This is such who knows who has what in this Nebraska-Utah game. It's like a spring reset for everybody.
But you know what? The one thing, and Latif is a factor in this as well. Utah gave up a lot of yards on the ground.
A ton. Yeah, they were track meets the last couple of weeks.
The one thing about the offensive line, and there are times where Emmett was an eraser. Isn't it interesting, the discussion about the offensive line, and I judge an offensive line, can they run the ball when they want to run the ball? And then can they run the ball in the red zone? We kind of have those questions answered. But we didn't spend the last half of the season bitching about the wide receivers not blocking. No. Wide receivers blocked pretty well on the edge as the season got later in.
That's true.
And then, like maybe one of the better run blocking days of the year was the last game of the year against Iowa. That offensive line was firing off, and they played pretty well as a fivesome. So it's just the offensive line is a weird conversation this past year, because you're going to immediately, your eyes are going to go to the sacks, and then you got to tell everybody about the quarterback, and it's not always on the quarterback, it's not always on the offensive line. I don't know. At the end of the day, we're going to look back and go, Emmett Johnson had one hell of a year. And we wonder, in 5 to 10 years, how are we going to tell our children and our grandchildren about the year that Emmett Johnson had? Because he's racking up All-American honors, deservedly so. But you're going to be like, buddy, there were no all-conference offensive linemen. There are no, There's no like bona fide first, second, third round pick on the line. Yeah. So it's what it looks like moving forward. If you can run the ball in the red zone, I think, man, you're cooking with peanut oil. And then whenever you want to run it, you know. But you got to get some dudes. You got to get some dudes. You got to get some road graders. And probably this upcoming year, I think your tackles have to be your best offensive linemen. Nebraska was really good this year in the interior offensive line. And it seems like we're on a run of the best offensive lineman Nebraska has is the center, from Ben Scott to Justin Evans. But I think their tackles have to be the tackles have to be the stars of the offensive line in 2026.
Yeah, it'd be good. And they also have to not get pancaked when there's like a wide end lining up for Michigan. That would help too. That would help. By the way, Nebraska's sitting on a Rudy situation. Y'all realize this, right? So like if Latif, if his hamstring doesn't hold up, do you bring in Gramstad? Win one for the Gipper? I mean, Gramstad is not good. He's not been able to play at all. He's 5'2", 104 pounds. He's tiny. It looks like he's heaving the ball.
I don't want to go.
The ball looks big when he throws it. But the guy won. The guy won a lot at a lower level. Do you think he's got one game in him? I need to see Rudy.
I need to see Nebraska play their ass off against Utah. I need guys to stay healthy and make it a good last impression with a very roller coaster heavy 2025.
And Schmidt and I have had this discussion because he cares. I don't give a damn what happens in the bowl game.
Thank you. It's an exhibition game.
Nebraska could lose by 35, and I'd say, well, wonder what Fred Hoiberg and that basketball team are doing against Michigan State here a couple days. That's exciting. There's the fact if you win, sure, you get some momentum into the offseason. You get
that's why I'm interested to see what happens.
If you
got to get some semblance of momentum.
If you get killed, you say, well, you didn't have your best player in Emmett Johnson. You're losing some players on the defensive side of the ball. The D-line, we knew they weren't very good. It's a bad matchup. Husker fans and really everyone across the country, no matter what happens, will be like, okay, cool, on to 2026. And I brought this up. Do you know how many playoff teams this year lost their bowl game last year? It's because you're not playing with the roster that you played your entire season with. And you're not playing with next year's roster either. It's this, as Gary said, weird exhibition type game where
it's a transition
happens.
Yeah,
it's a great opportunity to play a lot of guys. Now, there are some guys that this is a day to get better, but we've kind of transitioned in this era of the playoff where bowl practices are more important than the game.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Which is an aside here. I don't think bowl teams should be getting more practices than everyone else in America. That also strikes me as a little bit weird and odd, but hey, you do. So go use those practices to your benefit. Awesome.
You think the crappy teams should be allowed to practice?
Yeah, why?
Those guys that need it.
They're the ones that need it. is that kind of what you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
You bring up Gramstad. Whatever happened to Marcos Davila?
He's still there.
I know the guy's a 4-star quarterback, and if star ratings are important, 4 stars not bad, I guess, in the recruiting world. So we're talking about Gramstad, who led Northwestern of Iowa. He's not going to be playing Purdue on the kickoff team, Rudy. So he's going to get more than 2 snaps or 2 plays in the game if it's Gramstad. But I would think that if you're a 4-star from Texas slinging around out there in the plains, why wouldn't he be more talked about given Nebraska's quarterback situation and with Raiola transferring? 4-star, that's pretty good. He put up big numbers in Texas. So why is he not in the conversation for Nebraska's A, backup job, and B, challenging Latif next year? That I find that mystifying that a 4-star is kind of not even he's in the Luke Longvall vault of Nebraska quarterbacks.
Well, I think because he got a guy that was here at the same time he was in the spring, passed him to be the backup quarterback, and the human victory cigar then became the third quarterback. Hey, Latif's on a bad wheel, and they don't trust the other 2 quarterbacks to come in and play against Iowa. Tells me everything I need to know. But if you're looking at the quarterback room for 2026, let's say Latif is the only holdover. You don't have a high school kid in this recruiting class. So you essentially would have to go out and get a couple of quarterbacks out of the portal or find somebody on campus. So I don't know what
on campus.
Davila, if he left, that would be his third school in 3 years, and he hasn't played football, since he left high school. And he's one of Dana's guys. Dana recruited him to Houston before he decided to go to Purdue. I would actually like to see him play if Latif can't give it a full go where he's not fully healthy out there. Because I'd like to see what you have. Because if you don't have him, Latif is lonely in that quarterback room, and that means they got to go out and get an extra quarterback.
I'd like to see Davila get some. He needs to stick, but get some work. If Dana took you and Brom recruited you, or vice versa, those are two good guys that kind of know quarterbacks. I mean, there's something to work with there. Sharpie, a name that Nebraska recruited, and I don't know if he ends up in the portal or not, but Julian saying isn't going anywhere. The kid out of South Dakota, Lincoln Kindholtz. I mean, is he a guy you think could enter the portal?
He did play with Jason Machacek back in Pierce, South Dakota.
Well, you guys know his family has built a lot of projects, or the relation to his family have built a lot of projects. Hausman in Lincoln.
That's Carson's buddy.
Yes. Okay. So that is a connection to him.
Gotcha.
They built a lot of stuff at the university. They built some athletic facilities. He was mentioned last year. So it's, this is the tricky part of making an evaluation of Latif. And I think at some point, I know you look at all the playoff teams and they got transfer quarterbacks. Not everybody can have a Ty Simpson. But at some point, you have to make a commitment to developing your own quarterbacks, knowing that you got to go get a portal, but you got to make that commitment. But in this case, let me turn this back to you guys. And really, the only extended time we've seen him play at Ohio State, and Nebraska recruited him out of high school. I think Frost at one point thought, man, this makes too much sense to get him to come south from South Dakota. What would be the reaction if Nebraska has talked about that? Got to get a portal quarterback. We're hearing all this money out there of how much it's going to cost. Dylan Raiola ain't making $5 million, by the way. Pete Thamel is if that was Nebraska's lone quarterback pull out of the portal, and the last time we saw him was that weird bowl game that Ohio State played against Missouri. That's his most extended action. Mm-hmm. How would it be received around here? Even if he's coming from Ohio State?
I think it'd be all right because...
Would that tell you that Latif, they have so much faith in Latif that Latif is the number one guy with competition, but he is definitely the number one guy?
Well, it'd be better than
more the best available. You're going and getting the best available versus shade towards Latif.
Listen, and this is a Moneyball era of college football. You have a certain amount of dollars to spend on your roster. I think the ad would make a lot of sense, and it's better than the coaching staff sitting there looking at an Ohio State quarterback and saying, man, is he better than what we got? Bring in the competition.
Right.
Let's find out.
Thank you. Especially now that it is year to year. Right? Like there is no more protect the feelings of whoever I got. It's your year to year, period. You got to find, you bring in the competition. No more letting Joe Burrow get away. Stop it. If somebody wants to come and they're legit, you bring them in. Period.
Listen, if I just see a quarterback from Ohio State, we'll see. You feel good about what you have in Latif. If Latif is your starting quarterback next year, I think Nebraska fans and the coaching staff can roll with it. You find out what you have. I think Keenholz would be a good addition because, again, I don't think Nebraska this offseason, their main concern is going out in the portal and finding a ready-made former starter at the Power 4 level that everyone knows, we're talking the Sorsby type where everyone knows.
Oh, I'll take Sorsby all day.
I know you would, but I don't think that's the business Nebraska's in to go in and find that quarterback that everyone's going to want. There's going to be the bidding war, and it's a ready-made starter. I think you want somebody that's going to come in, be willing to compete with Latif. If Latif wins it, awesome. If whoever it is comes in and wins it, awesome. But you have so many other holes in this roster. We've gone through it.
Yeah.
You have holes in the offensive line, holes in the running back room, defensive line, linebacker, maybe even some secondary additions when you look back at safety. There is so many spots that you need a quarterback, but in terms of needing starters, I don't think quarterback is the top spot where you need a starter.
Guys, you're losing sight, though. It has to be the right fit in the academic program that the credits that they've earned at their previous institution would transfer over so that they could further their education and put the student back into student athlete. So if Kleinholz is a sports media and communications major for that, at Ohio State, then it would be a logical transfer here that his credits would also follow him. So he's not far behind in the classroom. I think we need to remember that.
A lot of them are going pro in something other than sports.
Let's see. Let's look at
this is for the children. This is for the children.
Hey, we didn't come here to play school, man.
Thank you. 12 gauge.
I'm looking here. He is a scholar athlete at Ohio State, is Lincoln Kienholz. He is majoring in real estate and urban analysis. Bill, can you tell? Is that a program at Nebraska?
We could shoehorn that into the sports media communications major at Nebraska.
In the business school, not that I took the class, but I know a connection who's got a semester left. Yes, you could do that.
Yeah, I didn't know. I don't know which academic programs they cut because it felt like they cut 1,000 of them in the last month. So.
There's a lot of real estate and things to analyze in Lincoln. Right, I think
a lot of buildings being worked on and put up on campus.
Let's build another hotel in downtown Lincoln.
Yeah.
How does the Drury Inn get such a great location? Holy hell!
Well, it's the old Journal Star spot, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah, I mean, rest in peace. Also, it's near the old Denny's that used to be there until 95, 96.
I'm surprised Drury Inn has been able to overcome their brand name, right? It doesn't sound like a spot you want to stay. It doesn't. It does not sound like. You're like the Drury. Like, good God.
I think it's good. I think the one in Lincoln's going to be nicer than the one that's across the street from the Truman Sports Complex.
Okay.
Which is a little bit shady.
Hey, Cole.
The neighborhood, not the hotel.
Cole Payton was just mentioned in the comments. West Side.
No, this is Let me jump in on Cole Payton real quick.
Technically out of eligibility, but he might have a chance at medical hardship.
Yes. Thank you.
That's the story with Payton, and we don't know what the NCAA would rule on that. He did miss over half of his season, but that included a deep playoff run for North Dakota State. Yeah. So he'd be kind of on that line where we've seen the NCAA grant medical hardship waivers there before, and we've seen them also deny medical hardship waivers before. We don't know. I don't think anyone knows if he'd have eligibility left. You'd have to go take it to the NCAA and figure out what they say, because the NCAA, in terms of consistency with medical hardships, it's all over the place. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I'd take him in a heartbeat. He's a neck roll quarterback, right? 6'3", 233. Like,
can throw it, can run it.
I think it's important. Whoever they add out of the portal, and I think this isn't just quarterback. You need to find guys, and you hope to get guys from programs that have a history of winning. Not that they're looking to escape a 2-10 football program. People that are coming, whether they were a frontline guy or they played quite a bit, I think it's important to get guys out of the portal that have been around winners, that know what it takes to win.
Well, and I think you got to be mindful of turnovers. Like a DJ Lagway is available, super talented guy, really talented. I mean, very talented, but it doesn't feel right. It feels like the turnovers follow you. I don't know if it's a program thing. I think we learned that from Sims.
You can't be gambling on the fact that you're the spot that'll fix him when it comes to turnovers.
Yeah.
You can't roll that dice.
If Jeff Sims didn't fumble,
he did this year, and he still beat Iowa State. I mean,
has Matt Rhule waived his line in the sand that he, of when he got here, that if you leave Nebraska, we're not going to offer you back. Like if it's Segrin or Flores or Flores or anybody says no to them or no to Nebraska, that remember he said you can't come back. Has that been kind of quietly shelved, that if some of these guys that they did not even maybe approach or had no relationship with, if they wanted to come back, and is that now allowed?
He needs to call Fred about that.
Right. Well, yeah.
Marcus has been a welcome return.
Yeah.
Like, you take those boomerang guys.
I think it depends on the communication you had to leave. But I think for the most part, I think if you've left, they wish you well.
Well, it's not even that, but it's the recruits too. Remember, it was high school recruits. If they didn't sign with Nebraska, they went elsewhere. They weren't going to take him back to.
No. So I'll give you an example, and I don't know that Zane Flores is on Nebraska's radar. So when Rhule's staff got here, Marcus Satterfield went to Gretna to recruit, and when they were doing the tour of the new coaches and they were doing FaceTime with the Nebraska high schools, and especially the Nebraska high schools that were producing a lot of Division I talent, Satterfield went to Gretna, and Mike Cale was the head coach at the time, and he said, "I'd like to meet Zane." And Mike Cale was like, "Hey, you got to understand, there's really no chance you're going to flip him. They've been loyal to Oklahoma State. It's a great family. Oklahoma State has been good to them." So they got Zane out of class. And, Zane came down and Satterfield just had, a little talk with him, just, hey, introduce himself. But one thing that Satterfield said is, "Hey, I just want to congratulate you on a great career. And I hope you go and you ball out in Stillwater. But if there's ever a chance that you're looking for another home and it doesn't work out there, keep us in mind." So they've kind of done that. But like Marty Brown, when Nebraska was recruiting Marty Brown last summer, and it wasn't the Rhule staff, it was the previous staff that kind of ignored Marty Brown. Well, not kind of, they ignored Marty Brown during, when he was playing at prep. That was held against Rhule and his staff, as Nebraska tried to get involved there. So I don't know. I think it's on an individual basis. But if they can benefit, if they've gone somewhere and somebody else has turned them into a better player, and they want to come back to Nebraska, I don't see why you would turn them down if they can benefit you.
Totally agree.
But they have to, everything has to fit together this year. It can't be, I think Nebraska has to hit the ground running right away. It can't be developing and slow build into the 26th season. I think they need to be geared up from day one.
This is just an aside, and it's an old story now, old news, because we're kind of past it. But whenever you look at like the Marty Brown saga, he got ignored out of high school. Zane Flores, well, Nebraska was late to the party because the previous staff ignored him. Cole Payton, we're talking about, he's been great at North Dakota State, didn't even get sniffed by Nebraska whenever he was coming out of high school. How the hell do you not even sniff any of the talent at Millard South? Even if you're not going to try to bring them to Nebraska, you're not going to have a nice conversation with them, say, "Hey, I'm Matt, nice to meet you," or "Hey, I'm Dana, nice to meet you." How do you just ignore all that talent up there, knowing the fact that there might be guys coming available in the transfer portal 3 years from now?
He felt burned by the two Bellevue West receivers. He felt burned by Lincoln East kid that's transferring again from Minnesota.
Malachi Coleman.
Yeah, Malachi. It felt burned by, the West Side kid that transferred the fast. Getting all these. Yeah. Well, and there's another one too. The one that went to Oklahoma State, I believe. And then
Jalen Lloyd.
Yeah, Jalen Lloyd. Like, you go on and on down the list of Nebraska, like in-state recruits, Xavier Betts flaming out, right? You just go on and on. I think that's what it is. I think he's like, man, these in-state kids can't cut it. Like,
I can't take an in-state kid and have him be miserable here.
Right.
That's why it's important. And I keep saying this as a guy that watches a lot of high school football in Omaha. The Omaha kids need to go to Lincoln and perform well, and there's already one that was really good in high school, Vermas, who was really good in high school, is already in the portal, and
the hit rate is terrible. In
well,
state. That's almost reversed. Usually, it's the out-of-state guys that end up leaving and being uncomfortable.
But there's like when you and here's the thing about a coach is everybody has seen these kids play in high school, and they were great in high school. So you question the coach of, hey, they're in your program. I saw them play on a Friday night against Omaha Westview, and they were great. How come they're not playing in Nebraska? You hear that as a coach because people are like, I guess you can't develop him. He in high school, he was great. So, it's the balance of we got to have a great hit rate on in-state kids. Like when they get here, they got to be able to pop. There's a deeper conversation about the future of Carter Nelson. Like what happened? What does he look like moving forward? Do we still recruit 8-man guys? How long does it take for them to adapt? But I think it's important when Omaha kids, because Omaha is loaded with talent, when they go to the big school down in Lincoln, they got to perform. They got to play well because as Bill was alluding to and Elijah, it does, if they don't, you want to recruit in-state kids, but if they don't pop for you and they're more of a moving on than staying, then at some point you're going to be like, gosh, what are we doing wrong? Or we can go somewhere else and get those kids. So those guys got to be on the field and perform well and stick with it. And, we'll see.
Well, the door has got to be open for return.
Well, this name just got brought up, and Bill, you're right. The door. That's why I think you at least got to go talk to some Millard South kids, even if you're not going to be in the thick of their recruitment, just so hey, in case they go play well at Iowa State or now Penn State, and you have a chance somewhere down the road, you have an open line of communication. But a name that we haven't talked about much at all recently, in-state kid, very important, Carter Nelson. What does his future look like at Nebraska? Yeah, the silence says it all.
Yeah,
that has been an ultimate from as many teams as wanted him coming out of high school football. And you see Mike Eckler, he's found a way to use him on special teams. He played really well on special teams,
but he didn't come to Lincoln to be a special teams guy.
Exactly. Yeah. One catch offensively. How do you not get that guy involved in some way, shape, or form?
Because I don't think they know what to do with him. But let's see him with a whole year of being healthy.
That's fair.
Because he
hasn't been healthy yet.
Because he was a late guy coming out of high school. Like he didn't early enroll.
He did track.
And then he shows up middle of the summer, so he's a little bit behind. Then he got hurt, and that last offseason, his first full offseason in Lincoln, and then I just don't think they knew what to do with him. And then he wasn't consistently a presence when he was on the field, but special teams he was great. But he's too much of a high-profile recruit to just be a special teams demon.
He had hip surgery too.
Yeah, the tight end room. The tight end room, as we flip to 26, you lose Harburg, which is okay because I don't think they knew what to do with Harburg, and they felt like they had to do something with him because of his size and his past as a quarterback. You're going to get Bonner back. Mark Way, you think could make it to the opening day healthy. But then where does Carter Nelson fit? Because it would seem like now is the time for him to pop and more opportunities for him. But maybe they don't know how to use him correctly. It's kind of those little tweeners like Bonner. What is Bonner? Bonner looks great, but how do we use him to effectively help everybody? Does Carter Nelson fit in there? By the way, I think Bonner returning in 26 will be something that needs to be discussed a little bit more because his absence this past year was huge. We didn't talk about it enough. But I think his return is something we'll talk about a lot if he returns to full health.
I think he'd be valuable in an offense that may have a more diverse and complex running scheme.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I want to take it back 1 second. Do you think
I got to jump out here?
Do you think any tight end at Nebraska in the Matt Rhule era has been they figured out how to use them effectively? Borkature?
Well, I thought they figured out Borkature and then he left, and then I thought they figured out Lindenmeyer, but he disappeared after the second half of the season.
You don't throw to him.
No, I don't think that was a Luke thing. Yeah, I don't think that was a Luke was. Yeah, I mean, middle of the field would have been a place where he could have, written an NFL paycheck. I don't. I think the offense just kind of took I don't know. There's a weird turn midway through the year.
Sharpie, enjoy Houston.
Thank you, guys.
We'll check in tomorrow with the weekend edition. Turn Sunday live. Be good. Enjoy Texas.
Great day of sports, boys.
Appreciate you, bud.
Thanks, Gary.
Let's go.
Right, we'll wind it down, but yeah, the tight end usage is lacking.
Yeah, you got to go back to Harrion, right? Or Sethan Carter.
Sethan Carter's
a good call.
Gerald Armstrong.
Trey Foster. Trey Foster got used all right in Lincoln. A good blocker that they kind of had some counters with, get him some touchdowns down in the red zone.
Needs to be a Johnny Mitchell type offense.
Before we get out here, guys, I asked the question yesterday. I don't know how to watch Texas A&M and Miami without wishing pain and sadness on both of those fans.
Meteor.
That's the game of the day. I want to see what Tulane does against Ole Miss. James Madison, Oregon could care less. I'll be watching Packers Bears. But A&M, Miami, what should I do? Who should I be pulling for?
A&M, Borkature.
I do love Nate, but then there's the Trev factor.
I know.
Just like Trev. I mean, good on him, man.
He was right. He's got a volleyball team in the Final Four.
And a playoff team, and he's hosting a playoff game. Bogues nailed it.
His basketball teams will be playing Nebraska in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. It was. I don't think it was the wrong move to leave, and I think you can be appreciative of what Trev did at Nebraska. He left the athletic department in a much better place than he found it. It was the way in which he left that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. But I don't think he was wrong to leave. And I think you can be very appreciative of his efforts at Nebraska, but damn, did he leave in a poor way.
Yeah, him and Kiffin are like they are the weirdest exit guys. You know, they just have not figured out how to actually leave a place.
But very, very different with
yeah.
how they head out. Lane sets the place on fire. Trev kind of waves goodbye.
Yeah. Huh.
Please, God, may Michigan hire Kalen DeBoer. Lane Kiffin go to Alabama. I am here for the coaching carousel chaos that would ensue.
Sounds like Michigan may make another run at Braum.
Is he leaving his alma mater? Do you leave your alma mater?
Hey, what's the deal with Whittingham at Utah? Now it's more and more sounding like
they've invested 3 years to the coach in waiting, and that venture capitalist investment that Utah got. I mean, they're pushing biker dude out the door.
Well,
he's pissed about it.
And look at the coach in waiting at Iowa, who I believe is LeVar Woods. Now off to Michigan State to get a couple of years elsewhere because
then he can come back.
Yeah, he can come back in a couple of years, but it's the ultimate sign of, hey, the coach in waiting, you're not going to be the coach for a couple of years. Our head man still got a couple of years left in the tank. Go out, get some other experience, and we'll welcome you back with open arms in a couple of years. It's opposite at Utah, where they're like, all right, the coach in waiting's been ready here. We don't want to lose you, so it's head coach out the door.
Look, it's not like Kyle Whittingham is not exactly like Bobby Bowden slipping in the last few years of his of his tenure.
Yeah,
people ought to know I'm a big Whit fan just because of all the times I got to go to Utah and do games. He's a solid dude. He's 66, 67. He probably is like 55 or thereabouts. He's just a sharp guy, in shape, healthy. Look, if he wants to still coach. If I'm Matt Rhule and I can check my ego at the door, which might be kind of tough. Hey, you want to come on board and be my defensive line coach? Because he was a linebacker at BYU. He was a defensive coordinator. Why not say, look, we got Holgorsen doing this thing with the offense. I know we got the young defensive coordinator, but why don't you, if you want to still coach, D-line, here you go. Come to Nebraska and do that, right? If Utah is forcing that guy out the door, that is a tragic mistake, I think.
Last 3 coaching cycles, he's been right at the top of who I was hoping Nebraska would get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
he's a great coach.
And I don't think he's done coaching college football. I think
I don't either.
He'll probably
I think if he's
end of next year.
I give him a 5-year deal if I'm Michigan. I send it to him right after the bowl game.
If he still wants to coach, he is a young 66, if there is such a thing. And he goes someplace and they let him, just coach football. Doesn't have to be, this whole CEO stuff, which I can see why he might want to get out. I think Rhule enjoys the CEO stuff. But man, Whittingham would be just such a great hire for a place like Michigan, so you can have an adult in the room and study your program a little bit. But anyway, I'm a big Kyle Whittingham fan. I don't like, if I'm hearing that they want him out, I think that's a travesty. That's like telling, Coach Osborne, things didn't go well against Oklahoma and Georgia Tech. We think their best days are behind you. So we're going to go into the 93 season with a fresh start because we've had a guy on staff that's been waiting. Now, I know Tom stepped aside 5 years later, but Kyle Whittingham has got a lot of great days ahead of him. And why not let him come to Nebraska and
he's right on
line or something?
Playoff doorstep. I mean, they flamed out a year ago at 5-7. They're 10-2 this year, a year away possibly. We'll see if the handoff is happening. It's Mark Kraynak. It's Elijah Herbel. It's Bill Doleman. Chris Schmidt. Thanks for taking time with the Average Joe Sports Show. Like and subscribe. YouTube, where you find us. AJ Sports Radio. Can find and follow on Twitter there. AJ Sports Pod. Back tomorrow, where we'll get Kraynak a link for the Sunday Live.
Send that over
at 10:30. As we wind it down, have a good weekend as we get ready for the holiday season next week. Appreciate you tuning in.